We haven't had a show in 2 weeks. Surely we didn't miss much, right? Well, we just missed multiple head coach firings, several, including 2 blockbuster NFL trades at the deadline. We're going to talk about all that and more coming up next on the Draft Countdown Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Draft Countdown Show. I'm your host, Brian Bosarge, and I'm here to tell you that we are 168 days away from the 2026 NFL Draft. And for discussions about the 2026 NFL Draft, all things football and a lot more, join our Discord. Scan that QR code right up there in the top left corner of your screen. Click the link below in the body of this video, or go to draftcountdown.com, where not only do you get cutting-edge NFL draft and fantasy football content daily, you can also join the Discord there by going to the top right corner of the search bar. There is a link there. So head over to draftcountdown.com. So, lots of news to get to, as I alluded to there in the opening segment, but let's get right to it. Let's get to the college football firings first. We're going to have a whole different segment talking about the trade deadline, so look in forward to that coming up in just a second. But let's talk about some college football head coach firings where Brian Kelly out at LSU. $54 million buyout heading his way for those in the, care about that sort of thing. Just never felt like a good fit between Brian Kelly and LSU, both culturally and otherwise. LSU is going to have no shortage of money to find another coach. They'll cast a wide net, but I don't know. We'll see if governmental interference in the state of Louisiana will play a part in who they're able to obtain. That's a whole other set of issues we won't get into today. But Brian Kelly out at LSU. Auburn has fired Hugh Freeze. This felt like a matter of when, not if. But following a 10-3 loss to Kentucky, Freeze was out. 6-16 in SEC play during his time at Auburn. He went 15-19 overall. Defensive coordinator DJ Durkin will take over as the interim coach. Durkin's defense is one of 3 in the country that have not allowed over 24 points per game in a game this season. The other 2 are number 1 and number 2 in the country, Ohio and Indiana. And then there's Auburn, who has won 4 games. Bruce Feldman of The Athletic list, and the betting odds kind of tend to lean this way as well. Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham, who was the offensive coordinator at Auburn a couple of years ago. Tulane head coach John Sumrall, who I think is going to be the favorite at LSU and Auburn. Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield, South Florida head coach Alex Golesh, and Southern Miss head coach Charles Huff. He listed as contenders. He also said he would not rule out James Franklin or Jimbo Fisher as potential wild card candidates. Yikes! If that ends up being the case, but Auburn looking for a new head coach again. This buyout you is what Auburn is over there. There is one less coaching vacancy to worry about is Kent State. I know you're all worried about what's happening at Kent State, right? They removed the interim tag for Mark Carney. He's done a decent job this season, about as well as one can do with the Golden Flashes. So he gets the interim tag taken off. And for me personally, the biggest news of the week was South Carolina finally fired offensive coordinator Mike Shula after another inept offensive performance, this time against Ole Miss. South Carolina is the only team in the entirety of FBS, 136 teams. They're the only one that has not eclipsed 350 yards of total offense in a game this season. Again, they're the only one who has not eclipsed 350 yards total offense in any single game this season. They played 9 of them. Now, granted, they played a tough-ass schedule, but Jesus Christ, how bad are you as a play caller that you can't get your team to 350 yards total offense? Against South Carolina State, they didn't do it. So, anyway, he's out. Wide receiver coach Mike Furry, who's a former head coach at Limestone, a D2 school, and Sean Elliott, who was the tight ends coach, then became the offensive line coach after they fired Lonnie Teasley a couple of weeks ago. They will both be like co-offensive coordinators, I guess. But it was announced today that Mike Furry will call the offensive plays. They're off this week, so they had theoretically 2 weeks to get a new game plan in place before they go on the road to play number 3 Texas A&M. Good luck, guys. But damn, was it needed. And it can't be worse, right? I say that, I knock on wood, it can't be worse. Speaking of bad processes, the Miami Dolphins fired their general manager, Chris Greer, who has held the job since 2016. Their roster's not in good shape, and they need probably a top-down overhaul. They started with Greer. It looks like Mike McDaniel, their head coach, is going to at least survive until the end of the season, where I'd expect he's probably be on the way out as well, and they'll get a new GM head coach combo in there to start the rebuild. But they're kind of hamstrung by the quarterback position. Tua Tagovailoa has not played up to that mega contract he got a couple years ago, and the dead money hits on that contract are astronomical, where cutting him is not really an option, right? Just without cap sacrifice. So we'll see where the Dolphins go. We'll get into, some stuff that they did or did not do at the trade deadline here in a second. But yeah, not a good deal for the fans of the Fins right now. All right, as mentioned, trade deadline yesterday, and NFL fans have often longed to get one of them NBA, MLB style trade deadlines. And folks, let me tell you, kind of felt like that. Now I told you I was off last week. We did the show with Shane. And so I'm going to talk about some trades that took place during, the time I was out, and then we'll get into the deadline trades that happened. But man, we even had one of them NBA kind of trades with draft picks and all that. So it was fun, fun keeping up with that yesterday. And we're going to talk about all the deals that have gone down in the last 10 or so days. We'll start with the Rams acquiring cornerback Roger McCreary and a 6th round pick from the Tennessee Titans in exchange for a 5th round pick in this year's draft. McCreary was a high 2nd round pick a few years ago. He's a solid corner. Rams get some depth there. 49ers acquired defensive end Keon White and a 2026 7th from the New England Patriots. They get a 2026 6th round pick in that deal. Patriots also did the same exact trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they sent Kyle Duggar, the safety, to Pittsburgh and did a 6-7 pick swap there. Duggar and White, both former 2nd round picks for the Patriots. They are moving on. The Jets, the first of many times you're going to hear the Jets in this segment, sent cornerback Michael Carter and a 2027 7th-round pick to the Eagles in exchange for wide receiver John Mechie and a 2027 6th-round pick. So they do the 27 pick swap on the back end. Mechie, the wide receiver the Eagles had got in an earlier trade from the Texans, but they'll be getting Michael Carter in exchange there. But the Eagles were not done trading for corners. They added Jair Alexander from the Ravens and a 2027 7th-round pick in exchange for a 2026 6th-round pick. We're going to get this 6th-round pick in just a second. Alexander, moved on from the Packers, signed with the Ravens. Didn't work out there. They moved him over to the Eagles. We'll see how he fares over there. But that 6th-round pick I mentioned has it's been around the block. It started with Denver, then went to the Jets for John Franklin Myers. Then the Jets, in turn, sent that 6th-round pick to Minnesota for Harrison Phillips, who then, in turn, Minnesota sent that pick to Philly for quarterback Sam Howell, who then Philadelphia, in turn, sent that pick to the Ravens for Jair Alexander. So 15 this pick is on now, and who knows, it'll probably get traded again between now and draft day, if not on draft day. So that pick has been passed around a lot. The Eagles weren't done there either. They acquired pass rusher Jalen Phillips from Miami, former 1st-round pick. Final year of his deal, I believe. He goes to Miami for a 2026 3rd-round pick. So the Eagles get some pass rush help. They get corner help. And Miami was probably going to let Phillips go anyway, where they would have got maybe a 2027 3rd-round comp pick. But, anyway, they get an advance on that pick from the Eagles. Now the Eagles will be in line for that comp pick, whatever it may be from Jalen Phillips. The Ravens picked up defensive end Draymond Jones from the Titans in exchange for a conditional 5th-round pick in 2026. The conditions, it can become a 4th-round pick if the Ravens make the playoffs and Jones notches 2 sacks over the rest of the season. Feels achievable? We'll see. So let's get to deadline day. So these are all trades that happened on Tuesday, the final day of the NFL trade deadline. And they started with the Bengals, the only trade they made, probably not the only trade they should have made. But that's neither here nor there. They traded Logan Wilson, a captain on the team, but he'd kind of had his playing time cut as the Bengals kind of went youth movement, for better or worse, on their defense with their 2 rookie linebackers, Barrett Carter and Demetrius Knight. But the Cowboys give up a 2026 7th-round pick. That pick belonged to the Giants, so it'll probably be a high 7th-round pick for whatever that's worth. But Wilson had kind of asked to be traded when his playing time had got cut. I get it. He's been a great contributor for the Bengals. Wish him the best. Jacoby Myers had also asked for a trade from the Raiders. They finally give in to him and move him on to Jacksonville in exchange for a 4th and a 6th-round pick in 2026. With Travis Hunter on IR and Brian Thomas Jr. banged up, the Jags needed to make a move to try to keep their, offense afloat for a potential playoff push. So they acquired Jacoby Myers, who, can put up numbers when need be. The Jets made 2 blockbuster trades at the deadline, the first of which was when just kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. They traded Sauce Gardner, cornerback, to the Colts for a 2026, a 2020, and a 2027 first-round pick and wide receiver Adonai Mitchell. The Colts are going all in on this season, it seems. They're trying to keep the top record in the AFC that they currently have. In a rare good move from the normally terrible general manager Mickey Loomis of the New Orleans Saints, the Saints traded wide receiver Rashid Shaheed to Seattle for a 2026 4th and 5th-round pick. They had asked for a 3rd. They basically get the equivalent of that with the combined 4th and 5th-round picks. Shaheed gives the Seahawks a burner at wide receiver to pair with Jackson Smith and Jigba. The Saints get good value back on an expiring contract from a former undrafted free agent. Chicago acquires defensive end Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and a 2026 seventh-round pick. They send to Cleveland a 2026 sixth. So they swap 6 and 7s back into this draft. Tryon always going to have a special place in the hearts of the Draft Countdown show, as his image in our outro video was the cue to close the podcast video for 2 years or so. So, Godspeed, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, on your new endeavors in Chicago. The other blockbuster trade that the New York Jets made, they sent defensive tackle Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys. The Jets pick up a 2026 second-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and the NBA-ish of this trade was that Dallas has 2 first-round picks, 2027 from the Micah Parsons trade. The Jets get whichever one is the highest. Don't generally see that in the NFL. You see that all the time in the NBA, so that's fun. We got that. Also, defensive tackle Mozzie Smith goes back to the Jets. Williams adds an interior stud on defense for the Cowboys, who's under contract for multiple years. After this, the Jets now have 3 first-round picks. They have in the 2027 draft, they have 2 firsts in 2026, 2 seconds in 26, and now 3 firsts in 2027 draft, a draft that is expected by many to be one of the best opening rounds in years. And the Jets are now loaded up in that draft with their own first-round pick, the Colts, and either the Cowboys or the Packers' first-round pick. A couple of trades got in under the gun, just under the gun. The Saints traded offensive lineman Trevor Penning to the Chargers, the former first-round pick that was a part of one of the dumbest Mickey Loomis trades ever. But Penning, who I did like coming out, but I'm really like, I had the 15th overall player in that draft class, but it hasn't worked out. It didn't work out. That's a big miss by me. Chargers needed bodies on the offensive line. Penning is certainly that at this point. So they get a 6th rounder in 2027 for Trevor Penning. The Chargers, in turn, because I guess they needed the roster spot for Penning, moved defensive back Jasir Taylor to the Jets for the NFL equivalent of a ham sandwich, which is a 2028 conditional 7th round pick. This pick may not ever even move, but we'll see. So, yeah, big trade deadline for the NFL. Super fun to follow along. And hopefully your team made the right moves. Mine did not. So it is what it is. All right. It is NFL Draft Top 10 time, where we update you on how the top 10 of the NFL draft order looks as we enter week 10 of the NFL season. And we've had some changes since we last talked to you. And as always, this top 10 is brought to you courtesy of Tankathon. Go to tankathon.com to get draft orders for the NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL. And with the NBA and NHL and MLB, now you can do draft lottery simulators on those as well. But none of that draft lottery crap here in the NFL. So it was straight losing gets you picks in the NFL, baby. So who's got the top pick now? It is our good friend Mickey Loomis and the New Orleans Saints. Will Mickey Loomis still be the GM of the Saints? History tells us yes. He hasn't had the number 1 pick in a while. So if that indeed holds, and we'll see. But the Saints do still have games against the number 2 and number 3 teams on this list. So a lot of football to play and a lot to be decided as far as this draft order goes. But the Saints are 1-8. They are tied with the Tennessee Titans at that record, who picked second. Saints have played a worse schedule. Titans 1-8 as well. They currently hold the number 2 pick a year after having the number 1 overall pick. The New York Jets, by courtesy of playing 1 less game than the Saints, because if they had played an even number of games, the Jets would have the number 1 pick based off strength of schedule. But the Jets also by beating the Bengals a couple of weeks ago, get that first win. They're 1-7. They're picking third. The Dolphins are 2-7 right now. They currently have the number 4 pick. They have the same record as the New York Giants, who currently hold the 5th pick. The Cleveland Browns currently hold the 6th pick. They are 2-6 on the season. They have the same record as the number 7 pick in the draft. Currently, the Las Vegas Raiders, also 2-6. The Cincinnati Bengals have the same record as the number 9, but they currently hold the 8th pick, the Bengals. The 9th pick currently to the Washington Commanders. Commanders probably going to be hanging around here a while. I'm sure everybody saw the Jaden Daniels injury by now. Not great. Washington in trouble there. Baltimore is not going to be here much longer. Baltimore is going to win the AFC North. I'm just going on record saying that now. The Ravens are going to end up winning that division. They're not going to be picking 10th when all is said and done, but that's where they currently are. They currently have the same record as 3 other teams. The Atlanta Falcons would currently have the 11th pick. If they had a pick, that pick belongs to the Rams, the 11th pick right now. So the Rams are hoping the Falcons go in the tank. The Arizona Cardinals and the Houston Texans, both 3-5, currently picking 12 and 13. The Cowboys are 3-5-1, would be picking 14th. So, yeah, there's your updated draft order top 10. All right, we got back into it this week, watching some prospects, and we watched 5 games this past week in Week 10 of college football. And it was a very defensive week to watch. Not a whole lot of outstanding offensive performances in the game I watched. Now, again, some of these games that I watched this week and in the next few weeks, as you're going to see, I'm trying to play catch up, trying to watch some teams that I haven't watched yet. So that's kind of like the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to try to mix in some maybe games that I wouldn't normally have watched, just to get an eye on, 9 or 10 potential prospects from some of these other teams that we haven't watched yet. But we watched the Ohio State-Penn State game this week because there's a lot of NFL talent in that game, even though it was an Ohio State blowout. But anytime you get to watch Ohio State linebacker Arvell Reese, it's a good time. This guy, when my next board drops over the next few weeks, I can't remember when I got it scheduled, Reese is probably going to end up being the number 2 player on my board. He's just been so good this season, so dominant. And on last week's show with Shane, we talked about him a good bit and how we think he can project to the NFL level. He's just a good football player, man. I want him on my team. Against Penn State, he had 12 tackles, 2.5 for loss, and 1 sack, and was just disruptive for most of the game. Another defensive player that we've talked about on the show before and written about at draftcountdown.com, Brian Lamb did, Ole Miss linebacker Centerine Perkins. He spied Lenore Sellers basically the whole game, ended up with 6 tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, and he had an interception late in that game. But Perkins had a big game against the Gamecocks on Saturday. Some other notable defensive performances this past week. Another Ohio State edge rusher. It's like they're just coming out of the woodwork. But Kenyatta Jackson, he had 4 tackles, 2 sacks, and a pass deflection against Penn State. Good game from San Jose State linebacker Jordan Pollard. Not somebody we've talked about, before on the show. Got a good look at him this past week. Had a great game against Hawaii. 8 tackles, all solo in that game, had 2 for loss. He had a sack and a forced fumble in their win over the Rainbow Warriors. Offensively this week, it wasn't a good week for them the games for offensive players when the 2 I'm going to talk about are Stanford players that excelled in a loss to Pitt, but that's the way it went. And their tight end, Sam Roush, 13 targets in the game, caught 8 of them for 104 yards. And their wide receiver, C.J. William, had 7 catches for 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. At best, those 2 guys are probably day 3 guys, late day 3 guys at this point. We'll see how they progress. Same way for Jordan Pollard. I see he's probably a special teams guy at the next level to start. But, that was all we had this week in the Week 10 Prospect Rewind. All right, Week 11 coming up. College football. We're going to get you primed on the prospects in the games and some of the storylines of what we're going to be watching for in the 5 games we've got on tap for this week. Quickly before I get to this, currently I'm a YouTube TV subscriber, and currently all of the ESPN and ABC channels are blacked out on there because of a pissing contest they have going on between trillion dollar company Google and $100 billion company Disney are just going back and forth with it. Just get it done, people. Jesus Christ. But anyway, thankfully, well, I say thankfully because I'm giving Disney more of my money, as it seems to be a recurring trend, but because they're the sole provider of WWE pay-per-view premium live events, and my daughter loves WWE, I added the ESPN Everywhere app to my Disney Plus Hulu bundle that I already had. So I was able to watch the games this weekend on that, but get it back on YouTube TV. It's what I'm paying for God's sake. Anyway, Thursday night on ESPN at 6:30, rant over. We're going to watch UTSA at South Florida. South Florida has been a fun team to watch all season. Beat Florida earlier in the year, beat the crap out of Boise State in that opening night game. They've got a resume that could potentially be a college football playoff team if they can get back in the American championship race. They have to win the conference to qualify for the playoff. They're led by quarterback Byron Brown, who's just, I don't know what he is as an NFL prospect, but he's a fun college football player. One running back in this game that is an NFL prospect, and that's UTSA running back Robert Henry Jr., been one of the most explosive backs in the country this year. Has catapulted himself firmly into that day 3 draft conversation. So watch out for Robert Henry Jr. in this game on Thursday night. Friday night at 8 p.m. on ESPN, a big American matchup. Tulane at Memphis, along with UCF. Both Tulane and Memphis are near the top of the Group of 5 playoff contenders, along with North Texas and Navy from that conference. But Memphis is led defensively by linebacker Sam Brumfield and their safety Kamari Wilson. Both these guys project as potential day 3 UDFA guys. Another potential UDFA in this game at wide receiver is Tulane's Shaz Preston. Solid player, good production this year. Over on Saturday, 11 a.m. on ABC, we got BYU at Texas Tech. And this is a top 10 battle. The number 8 and 9 teams in the initial college football playoff rankings here in the Big 12. The Cougars are unbeaten. They're going to play one-loss Texas Tech. Texas Tech's loss came to Arizona State a few weeks ago. Their quarterback, Baron Morton, returned last week against Kansas State. The key to this game and whether BYU can win and stay unbeaten is, can they protect their quarterback, Bear Bachmeier? Can they run block in this game? Those are the keys, because up front, Texas Tech with David Bailey, Romello Height, Lee Hunter, they're going to get after it and punish their offensive line. Their linebacker, Jacob Rodriguez, is tremendous, averaging 1 forced fumble in every game he's played in this season. It's just wild. But Texas Tech, super fun team to watch. They've got some good wide receivers on that team as well. So BYU at Texas Tech, that's where College Game Day is this week, if I'm not mistaken. So big game in college football this week is that one. Might be the biggest game in college football this weekend. 11 a.m. on ESPNU, Southern Miss at Arkansas State. What a turnaround this year for Southern Miss. One of the worst teams in FBS a year ago. They already achieved bowl eligibility this season with a chance. They're undefeated in the Sun Belt Conference, a chance to win it. Quarterback Braylon Braxton, along with several other former Marshall players who came over with head coach Charles Huff, been the key for the turnaround of the Golden Eagles. Braxton completes 67% of his throws with 18 touchdowns and 4 picks. On defense, edge rusher Jamon Tapp and cornerback Josh Moten both have the potential to get drafted. Moten, probably the best prospect for the Golden Eagles overall. For Arkansas State, I feel like I've been tracking their wide receiver, Corey Rucker, for a decade now. I know it hasn't been that long, but it just feels like it. He's got 44 catches on the year for 533 yards and a touchdown. Also like their cornerback, Avante Dickerson, who had transferred over from Utah State a few years back. And finally, 6:30 p.m. on ABC, we're going to watch LSU at Alabama. This would have been the biggest game of the weekend had LSU not shit the bed this season. But from an NFL talent perspective, there's still talent lined up all over the field, both teams here. Per FanDuel, Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson, now the favorite to be the number one overall pick in the draft. What a turnaround for a guy who's on like his 9th collegiate start at this point. But man, he's been good. He's been good. Wasn't as bad in that Florida State game as I initially thought going back and watching it. And then he's been super good in every other game. Just great decisions, throwing his receivers open. Just, he's got it all right now, man. And it's like, only thing he doesn't have is game experience. I don't think he's going to be in this draft class. I think he does end up coming back to Alabama, but we'll see. A little talked about prospect for Alabama, I think gets drafted late, is their tight end, Josh Cuevas. He's got 20 catches for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns on the year, but Cuevas can block a little bit. He can catch the ball. He's not going to be a super athlete. That's why I said I think he's a day 3 guy, but could end up being a good number 2 tight end in the league, coming off the board in that 5th, 6th round area. I think he'll end up with a Senior Bowl invite if I was a betting man. But I think Cuevas can elevate in this process. All right, time for the Q&A segment on the show. And remember, this is a Discord exclusive, so you have to be a member of the Draft Countdown Discord, which you can by scanning that QR code in the top left corner there, or you can click the link below here to do it, or you can go to draftcountdown.com, top right corner search bar will give you a link to join the Discord here. So like I said, if you want to get your question answered on the show each and every week, all you got to do is go to the podcast section of the Discord and ask your question there. I generally will send out a reminder around Monday or Tuesday to get those questions in. Bubba asked us a fun question. I really like this when I saw it. Rank the following people in order of who is best at their job. Now, I initially, when I started writing my answer to this, I misread the question, and I was going in reverse order. I thought he said worst at their job, but he said best. So I had to go back and reorder my answer. But and the reason I think this is such a fun question because it includes two-thirds of my favorite bits on the show. So good call from Bubba here to ask this question. But it's actually a kind of a close call at the top, but I'm going anyway. He asked rank these. I'm sorry, I skipped over the whole who to rank. He ranked the people in order of who is best at their job. Saints general manager Mickey Loomis, now former South Carolina offensive coordinator Mike Shula, whoever at CBS decided to pay more for a third-rate Big Ten game over the number 1 SEC game. It's a good question. So anyway, close call at the top, but I'm going with the CBS executives because I don't think it's 100% their fault, but they had a sweetheart deal with the SEC for over a decade, and now they basically having to deal with the repercussions of Disney basically buying the SEC broadcasting rights to everything. And in order to not lose that 2:30 time slot, 3:30 time slot, depending on where you live, they had to add something, and they end up getting Big Ten scraps every week. But also, I might have been the only fan of an SEC team that actually enjoyed Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson, and now subsequently Brad Nessler, who's the play-by-play for CBS. And now they, like you said, they just get mostly wasted on middle-of-the-pack Big Ten games. This is Gary Danielson's last year, I believe. But, I don't think it was their fault. that they ended up in the situation it was, as much as it was the SEC was like, no more discount for you, and they didn't want to reach that price. So, or ESPN was like, hey, we'll give you this much. We want it all. That's probably more along the lines of what it was. So I rank them as the ones that are best at their job. But like I said, it was close with Mickey Loomis, the Saints general manager, because as trash as he is as a GM, and he is hot garbage, at least he can say he won a Super Bowl. Yes, it was 16 years ago, but it technically did happen under his watch as general manager. So Mickey Loomis comes in second. And that brings us to Mike Shula here, who comes in last. And he has failed in nearly every year he's been a coach. Just bad at his job. He was downright dog shit as Alabama's head coach. He happened to be the offensive coordinator for Cam Newton for the one season when Newton went just pure Superman and berserk. And for some reason, Shane Beamer included, wanted to give him credit for that, I guess, which is why he was promoted to offensive coordinator this year with Sellers. And this year, like I said, as South Carolina's offensive coordinator, he oversaw one of the worst offenses in all of FBS. So Beamer finally realized that either he had to cut the line or Mike Shula was going to pull him down the mountain with him. And that's what happened this past week. So to recap, who are best at their job of Mickey Loomis, Mike Shula, and CBS executives who decided the number 3 Big Ten game was better than the number 1 SEC game. We go CBS executives, Mickey Loomis, way down here, Mike Shula. Zach asked, what is the potential draft stock for Colin Simmons? So we're talking about Texas edge rusher Colin Simmons, for those unfamiliar with the name. He is not draft eligible in 2026. He's only a second-year player. So, but I think based off what I've seen from him this year in the Texas games that I've watched, he's got a chance to be a top 10 pick in that loaded 2027 first round. Through a season and a half, he's got 17 sacks in his time in Austin. I think maybe I'd like to see him add about 10 more pounds. He's listed at 240. So maybe I'd like to see him get up to about that 250, 255 range between now and the start of the 26 season. But I think he's going to have a chance to compete with Dylan Stewart of South Carolina, who is another guy I think maybe could add a little more weight. But I think they both have a chance to compete to be that top edge entering the 2027 NFL draft cycle. So, yeah. Remember, join the Discord to get your questions answered. All right, final thoughts this week. I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. I'm wearing the shirt that I wore on race day, the Captain America clip. I can do this all day. I set a goal. I mentioned I can't actually run because of my knee right now, so I have to walk the entire race. I did the Run Disney 10K. That's why I was out last week. I set a goal for myself to get under 14 minutes per mile. I did that. I walked it with a 13-minute, 39-second per mile pace. That's 10K is 6.2 miles. And I was able to do that in under 14 minutes. So I was pretty proud of myself to be able to accomplish that. I think I actually would have went a little bit faster had I not had to weave in and out of traffic per my GPS on my phone, GPS app that I have to track my time and walks. I actually walked 6.6 miles during the race of a 6.2 mile race. Basically, if you walk in a straight line down the center of the course the entire time, it's 6.2 miles. But because I was having to weave in and out of people on the course, I ended up walking 6.6 miles during the race. But I did that in a 13-minute, 39-second pace. Could have been faster with less people on the course. But, hey, it was fun. It was so fun, man. I took a lot of pictures while I was going through, or best as I could while I was walking. That might have slowed me down a little bit too, but I have pictures with the Epcot Spaceship Earth behind me as I'm walking. It's awesome. So now I'm going to shift my goals a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit more training, walking. I'm going to start going back to the gym a little bit, do some weight training, try to rehab my knee a little bit, maybe that way. try to gain more speed. Maybe I can, if I can get my knee in better shape, I can jog a little bit, go faster that way, maybe. But that's the goal. I've set, like I said, I set a goal for myself that I want to be able to do a half marathon within the next 4 years. That is my goal. Half marathon is 13.1 miles. So yeah, that's a goal for myself. I want to do that before my 50th birthday, or in the year that I'm 50. This gray and this beard ain't because I'm a young man. But yeah, so those are my goals. That's where I want to be, and had a great time at the race, and it was super fun. So yeah, I was pretty proud of myself. Pretty proud of myself. So yeah, that's gonna do it for this week's edition of the Draft Countdown Show. A reminder: if you're new to the channel, you come across this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it out with your friends. It's we have a good time talking college football and NFL draft each and every week on this show. All right. So that being said, we're off. Until next time.